Welcome back to Living with a Classic, and we're out in my daily driver. It's a 1975 XJ6, and I'm on my way to go and do some last minute Christmas shopping. I always do tend to leave some things to the last moment. Don't know why. Try to change that every single year. It never changes. However, I did also plan to have this video up right here before Christmas. As you might know, if you're following along on the channel, I'm trying to do some different video topics here for December, so not strictly just wrenching videos, trying the whole thing where some YouTubers do different things for December. And one topic I want to talk about is daily driving a classic car, which is what this channel is really a lot about, living with a classic. This is my daily driver. It's a 1975 XJ6. I've had it for close to a year now, and I've been daily driving it for 6 or 8 months, plus or minus 2 or 3 weeks when it was off the road with a blown head gasket and I was waiting on parts and all of that. Other than that, I have been using it as my daily car. Of course, it's been quite a different year this year. We've had the pandemic, which meant that I've been working from home. I have my normal job is in IT, so I've very easily been able to work from home, which means I haven't driven as much as I thought I would. I've only driven to go to shops or to go and pick up my daughter or leave her at daycare. And that's really what this car has been used for. I haven't been commuting in and at all, so I haven't at all done the miles I thought I would. But I thought I want to do this anyway. I want to talk about the 5 things I really like and the 5 things that I don't really like about daily driving a classic car, because yes, even though I am a classic car nut and I absolutely love this and I think it's great, and I'll tell you all the parts why I love it, there are of course a few drawbacks, and there are drawbacks to everything in life. So I thought we would talk about that as well, even though I will say, at least for me, the positives do outweigh the negatives by far, and of course that's why I'm doing it. So I thought we'd talk about the positives first while I'm on my way to the shops. I'll do some of my shopping, and then on the way back we'll talk about the 5 things that I don't like as much. So let's pull out into traffic here on the main road. So one thing I want to talk about before we do the likes and dislikes is, this is of course only my opinion of what I like with this particular car. I've chosen to daily drive a car that is quite modern. The Jaguar XJ6 does have good brakes, it does have good heat, it is comfortable, and it's a big practical car. So it would of course be very different if, for instance, you were daily driving something like a Fiat 500 or something. So this is from my perspective of daily driving this particular Jaguar XJ6. So let's start with number 1, the way it makes me and others feel. When you drive a car like this, most of us drive it because we like the way it drives. We like the way it makes us feel. It makes me feel happy every single time I get inside this car and drive it. I feel good about driving it. I absolutely love the way it looks and everything. And then you get a lot of thumbs up from other drivers, or at gas stations, people come up to you and give you a compliment on your car. And it's not like I'm out after the attention or anything like that, but it's nice because sometimes it feels like you sort of make their day as well. Or their kids at a bus stop and they all clap or give you thumbs up when you go by, or pull out their phones to take a picture. I parked at a mall sometime this summer and someone got out their phone and was I guess they have one of those Instagram accounts where they spot classic vehicles, and took pictures of it all around and posted it, and that was really fun. And also the way it makes other people feel, like other people in my family. For instance, my daughter, I have an almost 3-year-old daughter who absolutely adores this car. It has by far become her favorite car of the ones that we have. It's the one that she always wants to go for a drive in. I remember last week I wasn't using this car as much. I was using my wife's previous daily driver because I was sorting out a few things on that before we sold it. And almost every single morning she would complain that, why aren't we going in Daddy's car? So the way it makes me and others feel is definitely one of the points. The second point is comfort for its age. So for being a 45-year-old car, it is very comfortable. Even though the seats are a little worn and everything, headrest here, we're going to sort all that out pretty soon. It is still a very comfortable car for its age. You hardly feel any bumps or anything. It has good heat in it. I don't have an AC car, so it doesn't have an AC, but the V12 version of this car that I have has AC, and I mean, that is as comfortable as a modern car in the summer as well. I mean, it has power steering, an automatic transmission. It's pretty quiet inside, even though it has, 45-year-old rubber all around the doors, which are things that I'm probably going to replace at some point. But still, even with all that, it is a very comfortable and very nice place to be. The third point is, it is very easy for me to be able to work on this car. So if something goes wrong with it, I can usually, so far, be able to fix it myself. And I do carry some tools, which I think is a good thing if you want to daily drive a classic car. Carry some tools with you when I have some extra cables and some things. So hopefully, if something were to happen, I can maybe deal with it and be able to limp it home, which would be ideal. Otherwise, you can always get recovery service, of course. But that's the thing. If a modern car conks out on the side of the road, you're probably not going to be able to get it going. But an old classic, you might be able to get that thing going and limp it home. So that is another thing. The fourth thing is that it is very fun to drive. I get really, really happy when I drive this. Even though it's a big sort of luxury limousine, it's still really good in the corners, and it's fun on small little country roads. Even though it is a very fast car and you can definitely drive it on the highway, it keeps up with modern traffic, no problem at all. I mean, it could pull away from a lot of cars, maybe not 0 to 60, but up there in the speeds, it's a pretty quick car, even with the 6-cylinder. It is very, very fun to drive. It's engaging. It has nice steering. The Lexus Series 2 doesn't have an overly assisted power steering. That's nice. It has nice suspension, and yeah, like I said, it just makes me happy driving it. So it's a very fun car to drive, and I enjoy every minute behind the wheel of this car. And the last thing I like is, it's not a deciding factor, but it's definitely a big positive. Is a car like this, if you take care of it, keep on top of maintenance, don't let it just sit and rot, and you use it, and when anything breaks, you fix it, it will most likely not depreciate. I think it will probably appreciate in value instead. So during your time of ownership, you won't be losing a ton of money due to depreciation. And as I found before, that it's not a very expensive car to maintain at all, especially if you do all the work yourself. Parts are pretty cheap for these cars. And even with all the stuff I've done this year to it, like I rebuilt lots of things. I had to rebuild the top end of the engine twice, and a lot of other things. I've still had a quite low, bill of parts and stuff for this year. I'm trying to remember exactly what it was, but I think from a year of using it, and that means also putting it back on the road, that's going through a lot of stuff that you don't go through regularly. It was less than $2,000 or something. It was $1,700 or something. So let's say a normal year in maintenance where you don't need to fix and replace pretty much everything on the car, you're probably sub $500 in maintenance, which is fantastic, especially if you have a car that doesn't depreciate either. You could actually spend a lot more on maintenance if you want to, because figure a new car, how much that depreciates every single day, or if you have a lease, how much that lease is every month. Think of that amount of money and how much you can actually put into maintaining an old car like this and keeping it on the road. So I'm almost at the shops now. I will go and do my shopping, and then on the way back, we'll talk about the 5 things that I don't like as much. Okay, we're almost at the shops here. As you can see, everything else is just modern cars on the road. So that is one thing. Your car will really stick out if you choose to daily drive a classic, which is both, good and positive. So you got to be a little careful as well, because people might not be as aware of your surroundings as they can be if you drive a modern car, especially if you drive like an SUV or something where people can see you a bit more easily. But if you drive something that's kind of low and sleek like this, maybe some SUV drivers will not be able to see you as well, or people are just not as aware of you and their surroundings. So that's one thing you got to think about as well. Another thing also is, whoa, where did that driver come from? Is that you always need to take some while to find a good parking spot, because you don't want to get door dings, or try not to at least. So I think I'm going to park over here. Always means you have to walk a little bit further to the shops, but it's worth it not having to get door dings. So that was the last of the Christmas shopping done for this year. I can drive back home, and then we'll talk about the 5 things that I don't like as much about daily driving a classic car. Starts right up at least. All right, let's turn some heat on. It's still pretty cold outside, even though there's no snow. It's just a couple degrees above freezing, so maybe we'll still have a white Christmas. So I'm just going to drive out of here, and then we're out on the main road again. I'll be back, and we'll talk about those 5 things. All right, back out on the main road again. So now the 5 things that I don't like as much. And like I said in the beginning, they're not really like big issues. I had to really think hard to come up with 5 things, because I am quite biased. I do love daily driving this car. However, here are the 5 things I came up with. Number 1, other people don't understand why I drive it. And I haven't had anyone, come up to me and be mad at me for driving or something, but some people just don't seem to understand. They're like, why would you want to? Why would you not want to be in a modern car that has conveniences and Bluetooth and navigation and all these other things? Why do you want to drive something made in the 70s? So that has definitely come up. It's also come up from some classic car owners. Be like, why would you want to put your car in the situation of having it be driven a lot? And well, I could talk to more. The reason for I want to do that is because this car hasn't really cost me that much, and because I've done all the work myself. I bought it quite inexpensively with a broken engine, and I fixed everything myself on it. So yes, I could sell it and make a profit, but right now I'm enjoying it, and you only live once, and that's sort of my answer to that question. Why did you drive it? Well, because I love doing it and I enjoy it, and that's why. So that is the one thing I don't like, that many people don't seem to understand it. Another thing is that we talked a little bit before that I don't like is I have to always be cautious of where I park it. And that is not only, like we talked about before, finding a parking spot far away. I mean, I'll do that with almost any car because I don't want door dings or anything. But for instance, if we were going, my wife and I, on a little weekend getaway to a larger city nearby, and we didn't take this car, not because we thought there'd be any issues, just because we didn't know what parking was going to be like, and we'd have to street park it in the middle of a city over a weekend. And a car like this, if you're unlucky, it will not be left alone. If it's it could be a normal ordinary car that you see everywhere, it could be worth a lot more than this one. People are going to leave it alone because you see it all the time, but people see an old car like this, maybe if you're unlucky, they're not going to leave it alone. I'm not saying that they might key it, but maybe they'll try and take pictures of it, sit on the hood, maybe try and remove the leaping cat on the hood, or just do some type of vandalization to it, intentional or non-intentional. So yeah, being cautious of where you can park the car is the one thing I don't like. And that is really not the fault of the car. It's just that sometimes people cannot be trusted with other people's possessions, and that is a completely different discussion, but things like that happen. Another thing I don't like as much, and that is probably more related to where I live, that I can't fill this thing up everywhere. The closest gas stations near to my house don't have the fuel that goes in this car. This is a pretty high compression engine for the time. It needs, where I live, 98 octane, which is the highest that we have here. We have 95 or 98. Some countries, like in Germany, have 100 and something. And I know in the US, you have a completely different system of counting octane, so you can't really compare it. So if you didn't know that, actually look that up. It's a completely different system. So most gas stations near to where I live, and most gas stations in general, they'll have diesel, E85 ethanol, or they'll have 95 octane gasoline. And this thing really wants 98. You will notice, because otherwise you will have pre-detonation, pinging, and also especially this one has a tendency to run on even when it's on 98 octane. I mean, I've adjusted everything the way it's supposed to. It just kind of does it sometimes, especially if I just do short trips and it carbons up. It will definitely like to sort of diesel, so I shut it down in gear if I have a feeling that if I haven't been for a long run, to sort of blast out the cobwebs out of it. But But that is an annoying thing, that I need to go all the way into town where we were now to fill this up, compared to I could just go to the local gas station, 10 minutes from my house. So that is one thing I don't like. I wish that I was able to get fuel more easily for this thing, but it's not really that big of an issue. I just have to think about it, that whenever I am close to a gas station that has the correct fuel, I go and fill it up, even though if I don't have to. The next thing is maybe more of a personal issue that I have than anything else. It's not always being able to relax. So when you're driving an old car, you're always listening, at least I'm always listening for weird sounds, or what was that, or what's going on, and being cautious. And it could be difficult to relax, especially if you've had a breakdown. At least for me, the next couple of weeks of driving, I'm always on edge, trying to figure out, what happened, is it going to happen again, sort of. And I haven't felt like that for a while, but I felt it when this car plus my XJ40, they both sort of broke down at around the same time. Then I sort of felt it, because that was the first time in a long time. It wasn't this car, it's my other Jaguar. It was my Daimler, actually. It broke down on the highway, left me stranded on the highway, and it brought back some weird memories. When I was younger, still living at home, I was on a skiing holiday with my dad, and they had which was then a pretty much brand new Volvo V50. Diesel, it was dealer maintained. Should be nothing wrong with it. It was a modern car, it should not break down. However, we'd been up skiing in Italy, driving away from there in the morning, early morning. I was driving, and we'd gone for about an hour down the mountain. Everything was fine. And as soon as I start to merge onto a highway where there was, no way to pull over, there wasn't like a hard shoulder or anything. As soon as that happened, I just lose all power, and this thing starts, conking out, which it's a very weird feeling when that happens, especially a modern car, and you have trucks whizzing by, and it's still dark out. And I remember we just kept cranking and cranking and cranking it to try and get it going again, because we felt that we were not in a safe place to stop. Finally got it going, kept going, and got to pull over somewhere where it was not safe. And then anyway, we ended up, having to take it to a shop and get it fixed and all those things. But sorry, that was a bit of a tangent, but just saying that that's more of a personal thing for me, that maybe I can't relax as much after, a major breakdown, or, second rebuild of the top end of the engine. When I'm driving, then, the first couple of weeks, I don't have the radio on. I'm just listening to everything, and it's not as relaxing as it might have been in just a brand new car, where you just turn on the key, put on the radio, and you don't care about anything. So that is one thing that I maybe don't like as much, but that's just a personal thing. And the last thing that I possibly don't like as much is weird, because I see it both as a positive and as a negative thing, but that you're not able to loan the car out as easily. So if you have a modern car that's just, fuel injected, really easy to drive, it's the same as any other car, it's very easy to loan that car out. So, if someone at work be like, hey, can I borrow your car, do something, or hey, I need to borrow your station wagon to go and pick up something big, at the store, but during that time you can have my car in case you need to go somewhere. You can't really do that with a car like this, or at least I feel that I can, because people of my age and my generation, friends my age, they don't really understand how one of these cars work. They don't really understand, how to drive it and such things, what to look out for, and, doesn't have ABS and other things, and, the finicky things of how it likes to be started, and all those things, and being aware of driving an old car. So the whole thing of if someone needs to borrow it, which of course people are welcome to borrow it. I'm not at all hoarding it, but I will need to explain that, okay, if it's hot outside and it's been sitting for a little bit, you can have some vapor locks. You need to put your foot halfway down on the accelerator, crank it over to get it to start up right away. If you don't, you'll get vapor locked, and all those things. You need to explain that, which are just second nature to me because I'm used to driving it. But it's a weird thing to have to explain to someone who's not used to driving it. For instance, my wife knows how to drive all the cars on the channel. She's driven all of them, and that is great. And she understands, how things work, and I can sort of explain to her that's a bit like, what a choke is and all that. you'll understand that, but I don't know, I think the average person is used to a car where you just push the button and you go, and you don't have to look or think about anything, and it just sort of runs. So that is the last thing, which I see both as a positive and a negative thing, that it's not that easy to loan out. Okay, we're pulling off the main road here, going on to smaller roads leading up to my house. By the way, if you heard a little bit of a squeak here during the time, it's just I have some Christmas gifts sort of sitting on the seats, so they're all making a little weird sounds, so hope that's not too distracting on the camera. Anyways, that is what I think of daily driving a 1975 Jaguar XJ6, at least how I feel about it right now. Of course, I'm going to continue driving this car, and you never know what happens. If it leaves me stranded enough times, maybe I'll get sick of it, but so far, it hasn't left me stranded. You know, knock on wood. That's a good thing. There's a lot of wood you can touch in this car. Wooden steering wheel, dash, and everything. Because so far, it hasn't left me stranded. It has sort of, broken down. I had some issues, but it's always, restarted again and made it way home, and then I could fix, the issues at home. So, in that sense, I feel like it's been pretty dependable, especially that it hasn't done that much in the last couple of years, and the previous owner took it on a long trip, across Europe trip actually, and it sort of broke down a little bit, and had a little bit of electrical fire, but I sorted all of that when I got the car. And the owner before that really only used the car, really as most people use their classic cars, trips to car shows and such things. So it didn't really do a lot of miles. So it's a bit of a shock, I guess, for the whole system that now I've been using it and driving it, putting miles on it. So I'm expecting things to break, things that, maybe have been on the verge of, going bad for a long time. And now we're just with more use, and I'm not going to say abuse, but, like being used regularly, some things will wear out and I'll have to replace them. But I think a lot of things will actually also start working better that you use it all the time. Switches and contacts and all that will work better. I think the engine is liking, being run a lot and actually, going up the temperature, going on longer drives. And that's something I hope to do as well in the future. I hope that if we're lucky enough to get out the other side of this pandemic, unscathed, I hope to take this thing on some longer trips, because I think it would be a nice car to do so, and I want to bring you guys along with that then. So to do some sort of traveling vlogs where we go to some beautiful nature places. I really want to see more of the north of Sweden and go up into Norway and look at some cool maybe glaciers and things. I bet this would be a fun car to do that in, or any other car on the channel. So let me know what you guys think of the 5 positives and 5 negatives of owning this Classic. Do you agree with me? Or, well, not owning the Classic, but, daily driving it. Do you agree with me, or any other things you would add? Let me know in the comments down below. Also, let me know what you think of these sort of driving videos where, I'm out driving anyway, so we might as well talk about classic car things, and maybe you guys can suggest down below other sort of topics that we could discuss, and we could maybe do this as a monthly thing or something, have a new style of video called, Living with Classic on the road or something like that. Let me know what you think of that idea down in the comments down below. Anyways, if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up, and like I said, leave a comment down below. Share it with a friend if you have someone who would be interested in, classic car videos. And if you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, please do subscribe. It really does help out a lot. And until next time, I'm Adam, and this was Living with a Classic. I'll see you soon.